Hello and welcome to Walker Tea Review. I'm Jason Walker, looking at teas that are pure, no added flavors or ingredients, not blended teas either, generally more than one kind of tea. So I'm scooping out enough here, using a tasting cup, which is kind of a standard use for different areas, especially for evaluating particular kinds of teas. Some people use the tasting cup for every kind of tea. As a professional, they just put everything in the same cup, treat it the same way. This is a Ceylon or a Sri Lankan tea, and I thought that this was more of the style that reflected the way that these teas are presented and evaluated. So I put in enough tea to cover the bottom surface area of my tasting cup. I believe this is about 3 ounces. My water has been brought to an early boil. So it started to rumble, not a full heavy rolling boil. And I'm going to add enough water so that a little bit the water level will rest just below the opening, the pouring area there. Let me get this kettle out of the way. Then I'll get the lid on here. The lid has a hole. You want that hole over here near your handle so that as you tip this over, air can flow through. The tea can flow out without dribbling out. Let's talk about this tea and introduce this. I'm going to talk about this. This is the Whittard Tea Company of UK. This is their CeylonKenilworthOP. You can get it it's currently available on Whittard's website, whittard.co.uk. £6, 25 pence for 3.53 ounces. I believe that's 100 grams. Location of Kenilworth. There's a little bit of course, it's in Sri Lanka or Ceylon. A little bit of discussion going on as far as which quality area of Sri Lanka that this particular tea comes from. There's even some indication that it's grown in one area. The factory, it may get processed in a different area, and the offices or buildings, the technical part of the business aspect may even be in a third area. So there's a little bit of confusion about it. So I'm just going to say for now that it's a Sri Lankan tea. Some indications of product pages, other places talked about that Kenilworth is a mid-grown, mid-elevation. So that gives us a little indication. Generally, the lower levels can be more intense. The higher levels more lighter, less robust, heavy. The lower grown are more often associated, or you often add milk because they've got such an intensity to them. So I'm going to look at this particular tea, talk about the dry leaf, the wet leaf, and the liquor. Starting off here with the dry. The aromas here, nice, rich, sweet aromas, sweet raisin, sweet tobacco, even maybe a bit of dry cherry in there. So that's a nice combination there. Rich aroma coming off. Scooping out the leaves here. They are what you expect from a deep, rich black tea. They are that bister, that deep dark brown. Almost moving towards a gray brown or even almost black in color, so deep dark colors. Length here, some of these pieces are going to be 1 inch in length, some of them smaller. This particular scoop looks like most of these are going to be 1 inch or more in length, wrapped along the middle vein of the leaf. And I would guess that these leaves are not completely intact, that you're going to find these are going to be mostly leaf portions. Let's see. Yeah, I see a little bit of stem here and there. That's a little bit of a lighter brown, more of a chocolate brown, or a deep rust red brown kind of color there. But for the most part, it's the bister is the dominant. Now with a tasting set, you will get a cup or a bowl like this, and so the way to often pour with a set like this is to turn it just like so. The sizes are such that it allows you to rest this and move on to do multiple pourings at once and let them all kind of sit there finish off by themselves, drain off the rest of the way by themselves. Then you can take them, shake out any last few drops. Talk about that in just a moment, but I do also, while I'm here, I do want to pour this into the pitcher so that the color is more easily seen, just like that. And let me get this just off to the side here. Now I want to talk about the wet leaf. I'm going to give this a shake, and then I'm going to give it, well, I should smell it first, and then we'll talk about the look at the wet leaf. Still sweet aromas coming off, more of the raisin at this point. So it still has a fairly intense, it's not on the lighter floral side. Rich raisiny, some kind of toasty notes, raisin with kind of a bran flake, raisin bran type of aromas coming off. If you ever had your raisin bran cereal, with the wheat or bran flakes, perhaps if you microwave that, heated that up, you get a bit of that in kind of a warm, toasty intensity with a sweet raisin in there too. Those are the dominant aromas. Less of the sweet tobacco coming off at this point. But the other advantage of a tasting cup set like this is you're able to, especially if you're tasting more than one tea at a time, you're able to put them all, display all the leaves. You could imagine a whole row of cups like this with the leaves all lined up to look at, to compare. And so what you see here in this particular one, the color has moved to more of a rust brown, a deep rust brown type of color, reddish brown. Leaf portions have loosened up here. You're able to see that they've unfurled. Still fairly tender, fairly delicate. They're going to tear fairly easily in between my fingers. I'm not going to be able to easily tease or unfurl this. It's going to take a little while. This is gently and gradually coming open, and you can see it's a leaf portion, a bit ragged there. I'll set that on top so it's a little more visible. There we go. Get the little pieces stuck to my finger there. I'm going to move on to the liquor now. Give this a swirl. Hold it up to the light. A bright and yet deep kind of plum, brownish red. Good colors there. Nice, but not too heavy. I mean, you can still see the light coming through. So it's a nice, even, bright, warm color. Aromas have backed off quite a bit. Maybe just a tinge of kind of sweet molasses. But again, that's just kind of a tinge there. Give it a taste here in the cup. It looks again rich, warm in the cup here too. The aromas and the flavor really backed off in the cup. So that's one of the first things I noticed. And then as it moved towards the back of my mouth, especially towards the back, it got a bit of more of a puckery bite to it, a bit more stringency building up around the back of the opening of my throat in the back. So it's got an astringency there, and it's kind of staying in the back half of my mouth. It's not really moving up towards the front. After a couple of sips, this is like with a third sip I think that I've had here, the astringency is starting to move more towards the front of my mouth, front half of my tongue. It's starting to get a dry type of feeling, a coating of dry sensation there. Aftertaste is somewhere in the neighborhood of baked beans, with a little bit of molasses. There is kind of a sweet residual coating. It's as if there was the sweet beany texture there. The coating there is is still resting on my tongue to a slight degree. It's more of the coating than the actual taste or flavor. As it dies off in the aftertaste, a little bit more of that that raisinine aspect starts to come out again. So looking at this tea overall, it was kind of it was kind of all over the place. It didn't really give a very consistent, smooth type of feeling. It was, oh, a little bit of this pops up in the aftertaste, and then you wait a little bit later, and then that kind of pops up. It's not a well woven story as far as a tea can go. This is probably the kind of tea that some people would want to put with milk and sugar, and that would probably tame or even this out a little bit. As it stands by itself, I'd probably give this one an 86. It's got some components. Again, it's if you're in a pinch and tea choices or tea pickings are slim, you might move to gravitate towards this, but not one that I would choose to present to, especially to first time or new tea drinkers. I would not give this one as one to stand on its own. So come back to Walker Tea Review to look for teas that are going to fit what you're looking for in pure teas and along your tea learning and tasting journey.